Hello and welcome to the Bearded Horror Review. My name is Dan, aka the Boogey Man, and on this show I will watch a horror movie, either a classic or a new release, talk about some good points, some bad points, if there are any of either, give it a rating out of 10 if I remember to do it, and let you know if I think this film is worth a watch or not, in my humble opinion. This review is a couple of days late because I've not been very well. It seems that I may have torn a rib muscle, so I've been in agony, and it's been painful, and you can probably hear it in my voice that I'm not great. But that's nothing compared to the pain of this movie that I watched. This was painful to sit through. We're talking about The Crow 2024. Ugh. I hate that I chose this as a hobby. Right, so we're going to be talking about The Crow 2024. It's finally here. A Crow remake has been in the works for about 4,000 years. The original is a classic. The comic book and the film adaptation with Brendan Lee are just superb. The Crow is one of my favourite films. I adore that film. It is a masterclass in storytelling, visual storytelling, and it's goth as fuck. It arrived at the perfect time.
Victims, aren't we all?
I will probably do a separate video on The Crow at some point, but talking about it briefly, it was just the right place, the right time. It was a beautifully shot, well-crafted story that came from a place of sheer heartbreak. If you know the story of the actual comic and why it was written. And the film itself was maligned with tragedy. The fact that, Brendan Lee unfortunately passed away due to a prop accident. And it hit everything at the right time. It came out in the 90s when it was very high in the grunge goth era. The music was on point, the aesthetic was on point, and the theme was on point. It was just a perfect catastrophe. So after that, there was many sequels. There was loads of sequels for The Crow, all trying to recapture that magic, but all with no heart. So they didn't really work very well. Some of them are fine, some of them are awful. And a remake has been in the works for a long time. They've been talking about remaking this film. The amount of names that were attached to it, Bradley Cooper, Marky Mark, Jason Momoa, all these people were considered for the role. And there's a problem there. It's Eric Draven. His story has been told, and his story is very much linked to the writer and his personal tragedy. So I think they found it very difficult to kind of coalesce and come up with this story. We even got glimpses of Jason Momoa as the Crow, and it looked good. It looked like we thought the Crow could be, and we got excited for it. I know I got excited for it. I have my hesitations whenever remakes and things happen, but I got excited for it. And then that didn't happen, and then we got what we got today. Now, this film was actually, as far as I've been made aware, actually filmed and finished a couple of years ago. And it's taken a lot to get it distributed and put out in theatres. This film is The Crow in name only. So, going ahead, I'm going to say right now, it's just spoilers. Spoilers. I'm not going to hold back from this film. And as we go forward, you'll understand why. But before we go on, guys, if you could leave a like and even consider subscribing, it's a little bit for you, but it's a lot for me. Really appreciate it. And the more likes I get, the more my ribs will heal. And I'd like to be able to have functional ribs and be able to breathe. So thanks. So let's talk about The Crow 2024. I just wanted to get that history out of the way to kind of emphasize why this garbage pile catastrophe of narcissistic bollocks.
What's the first thing you liked about me?
Should not exist. I hated this movie. It's very rare that I want to walk out of a movie. This year it's happened twice. It happened with An Violent Nature, and it's happened with The Crow. This film is terrible, it's terrible in many places. If you know the original story of The Crow, it is about Eric Draven and his partner, and they are murdered. And a year later, Eric Draven's soul is brought back from the dead to avenge his wife, his future wife's, and his deaths, his justified deaths. It's all about vengeance. There's nothing else other than catharsis. It's vengeance. It's making the balance. It's doing that. There's no one's coming back. Nothing's going to change other than the people that did the wrong thing are gone. And maybe removing these people from the world will make it a better place. That's what that story is about. I wanted to say that because this story is about a couple of narcissistic rich kids who are addicted to drugs that have known each other for about a week, that then end up in trouble because the rich girl who's addicted to drugs gets manipulated by a demon that's been alive for hundreds of years to kill someone, and he doesn't, and it was videoed, and he doesn't want the video to leak onto the internet because it could ruin his job prospects and his business. But in the video, he does nothing wrong, and these two people who met in rehab, it's happened to get killed because of this. Y'all hearing the difference? So let's talk about it. So there's many reasons why this film is absolute garbage, and I would usually never say don't go see a movie. I would say if it still interests you, go see it. But I wouldn't personally watch it again. That's just usually kind of the vibe I'm trying to put out. Straight off the bat, I am saying do not watch this. This movie is terrible. If you are a fan of The Crow, don't watch this movie. Even then, if you are a fan of movies, don't watch this movie because it is an over-stylized, underwritten pile of rubbish. I really hate this movie. And if people do like this movie, fine. You're allowed to have your opinion. But in my opinion, I don't think people should watch it.
I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them.
And there's a reason why I don't think people should watch it. The reason is because Hollywood listens with its bank. And this film is another example of bad writing, bad storytelling, a misunderstanding of the material, bad design. It's just a garbage fire. And if we keep soliciting films of this caliber, we will keep getting films of this caliber. We used to get high quality, high intention films, and now we get cash grab, visual garbage fires. There's 3 main reasons, in my opinion, why this film is the biggest piece of shit known to man. 1 is the writing. The story is awful. It's a terrible story. The dialogue is garbage. We're graced with such lines of dialogue as, if you find me hard to love, love me harder. If I jumped, would you jump with me? Of course I would. I'd be right there after you. I hate it. I hate it so much. The film itself, the story is terrible. Like, the writing is bad. The dialogue is bad. It's not worth watching. Another one was, you're not immortal anymore because your love wasn't pure. What the hell is... Like, I can't imagine people like Bill Skarsgård sitting down and reading this dialogue and thinking, that's really good dialogue. I really like that. It's exposition heavy because everything has to be explained. The way people are talking is so robotic and bland. I couldn't get behind any of it. And it's just sad. And it's full of cliches. This film feels like it was written in the 80s or 90s with all the cliches that it has. It's not original in any way. That's one reason why the film is bad. 2, one of these are the films, but not just the writing, but the characters themselves. The original, Eric Draven and his fiancée were caring, lovely people. They had prospects, they were philanthropists, and they were trying to do good. His partner gets killed because they're trying to make their living situation and everybody's living situation better. They're trying to put out petitions out there to make people's lives better. They're trying to do charity work. They're trying to do community work. Eric Draven's also a musician, and he's an up-and-coming musician. People know who he is because he's talented and he's gifted, and they're clearly in love. You see 30-second clips of them, and you clearly can see that they are in love and that they have been wronged by just awful people. They're not supernatural. They're not there because they want to live forever, which is the plot of this film. They are simply bad people that want to have money, and cause problems. That is that. In this film, Eric Draven is a drug addict in rehab. That's all we know about him. Also, his horse died when he was a kid. That's all we know about him. We don't know anything else about him. We don't know why he doesn't stand up for himself when he's in rehab. We don't know why he is considered an asshole. We don't know why he's so jacked and shredded. We don't know why he's covering himself in tattoos. We don't know why he is the way he is. We get no history for him other than his horse died when he was a kid. And the female character, whose name I cannot remember, and I can't be asked to look it up. She's a rich kid who's an amazing pianist, whose mother forced her into performing in places where she shouldn't have been performed. And men were mean to her. It's inferred. It's not fully stated what's gone on, but she said she sees things she shouldn't see, and the only people that are bad, we see being mean to her is this one man. So we can assume it was men that were mean to her. And she's a drug addict, and she still hangs out with the people that were mean to her because they supply her with drugs. She lives in a very expensive apartment that is given to her by her rich friend, and she is murdered because she is manipulated by a demon man who whispers in her ear, and she ends up stabbing someone. How are they comparable? Why should I care about a person who I have no knowledge of their backstory whatsoever other than their horse died and rich girl addicted to drugs? Why should I care about either of those people? They meet in rehab, they escape within a day, and the love story that's supposedly going on is about a week long by the looks of it. It doesn't last very long. It's not like they've been together for years and they're about to get married. They've known each other for about a week. It's completely narcissistic. The lines that I said to you before, oh, if I'm hard to love, love me harder, and oh, if I jumped, would you jump with me? Those are lines of dialogues stated by the love interest of this film. All they do is go out to bars, get drunk, do drugs. They immediately start doing drugs, spend other people's money, lavish around and just mess about. They don't really do anything other than that. Why should I care about that? And then when they get killed, it is simply, oh, they both get killed in the same way. Bag over their head. Please don't do that. And suffocated. No assault, no being forced to watch, no brutal murdering of beaten and ravaged, none of that. It's terrible. It's terrible writing. And then the iconic imagery of Eric Draven waking up a year later, kicking himself out of the grave and pulling himself out of the dirt. No dialogue, and we can see what we can figure out what's going on. We can see the anguish that this man is going through. You don't even see his face because at this point Brendan Lee had passed away. We can see through the way it's shot and the way the music is and the choreography and the setting what this man is going through. This Eric Draven wakes up in a river and pulls himself out and starts going, what the fuck, man? What's going on? Terrible. This, and the third reason why this film is bad, it is style over substance. Everything is about how the film looks.
And the soul cannot rest.
It's about the visuals, it's about these stylized shots, it's about these slow-mo sequences, it's about these fight scenes that happen. But it's not about the story. The story is secondary, in my opinion, when I watch this film, to what is actually going on the screen, the visuals on the screen. It's just terrible. It's unfortunate that this person who's directed it is clearly a good director, but the story that he's been given and the dialogue he's been given is something out of an edgelord's diary. This film feels like a 13-year-old emo watched Romeo and Juliet and then wanted to write their own version and came up with this. It is so tacky, tasteless and childish. I think it honestly, I couldn't stand it. It's awful. I felt nothing for these characters. But yeah, I know I'm ranting, I know I'm rambling, and I know I'm getting really serious, But there's a point to this because this film is so bad. I really wanted to be surprised by this film. I wanted to understand. And I wanted to enjoy it, but I couldn't because this film takes the idea of a man and his partner being unjustifiably hurt and killed for only trying to do good and turns it into a supernatural, narcissistic rom-com with violence on top of literally everything towards people who didn't deserve it and hesitation towards those who do. Eric Draven stumbles across every single person that he ends up killing in this film. There's a scene at the end, which I genuinely think is a good scene, where Eric Draven's assaulting an opera and he kills a bunch of people. Doesn't give a crap about these people. They're all the henchmen. It's a good scene because it's violent. Some of the effects are really good. The way it's shot is really good. I will give that one scene, and that's the only reason this film is going to get a score at the end of this. Other than that, it's terrible. People don't act like this. There's at least 3 people that say they need to leave town in this film, and every single one of them are found at their own houses later on in the film. Every single one. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. The love story doesn't make sense. It is a love story built upon trauma bonding. Let's face it. A couple of druggies, they're going through a hard time, meet, and immediately just decide that they're going to hang out with each other and they're attracted to each other. And that's that. That's not love. That is trauma bonded narcissism. Making it either supernatural and there's a demon that manipulates people and he takes people's purity and their souls so that they can then live. He can then live forever. What's that got to do with The Crow? Nothing. It's a stupid plot. And you know what? It's the same guy who's in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He just happens to be in all these terrible movies. It's like you imagine being the director and he's been cast, and you're like, oh, he's the bloody guy from The Thing that makes. Oh, but he's a good actor, but he keeps getting put in bad films, and it's so frustrating for him. It must be because he's a good actor. He's good in this for what he has to do. But it's just terrible. And at the end of it, he's not getting vengeance simply because of how horrible it was, because it's not very horrible at all. He even falls out of love with her halfway through, by the way. That's a plot point. He falls out of love with her because he finds out that she killed someone, even though he's killed like 9 people by this point. See what I mean? It's terrible. He's like, oh, I can't believe that she killed someone. Dude, you've literally murdered about 9 people by this point. What are you doing? No, come on, that's terrible writing. It's terrible. I honestly, I was just watching this, but he's so fucking edgy. Everything's so edgy in this film. Oh my god, look how edgy everyone is. And no. Absolutely fucking garbage. You know what? I usually censor them over my swears and stuff. But you know what? I'm not gonna on this video. Fuck this fucking film. I fucking hate this thing. The score is trying to capture modern music, but it's terrible. Again, it's not good. It ruins the idea of what The Crow is. And but the thing is, you know what made this film 1 point better? If they didn't call it The Crow, or they didn't call him Eric Draven. If they just called him something else, like the sequels did. Like saying The Crow is just this thing that goes from person to person trying to right wrongs. If you called him anything but Eric Draven, you would have had a less harsh criticism from the community. Why? Because Eric Draven is synonymous with 1, the original story that was written by a man grieving his partner's death. 2, synonymous with Brandon Lee. You cannot go and say this is Eric Draven and not tell Eric Draven's story. You haven't told Eric Draven's story. You've told the story of 2 whiny little bitches that met on fucking Tinder that just decided to fuck a couple of times and they thought that physical contact meant love because they don't understand these days and age what actual love is. They think it's a fucking comparative physical relationship. And actually, it's nothing to do with that. And these awful, rich, drug fucking fueled narcissists are just stuck perpetuating the idea that love is something that you immediately have because you've just met someone and that you're trauma bonded over the fact that you're both miserable because fucking reasons that we don't understand. And that's my review of The Crow. I implore people not to bother to watch this, because if we keep giving Hollywood money for terrible movies that are badly written, poorly thought out and recycled plots, we're going to keep getting them. So please don't watch this movie. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10 solely for that scene. The scene where he cuts loads of people up. That's what I'm giving it. Anyway, guys, what did you think of The Crow? Let me know down below. I'm going to do a video on The Crow at some point. The good Crow. The original Crow. Original recipe Crow. And I'm sorry it's taken a couple of days. And I'm sorry that it's not my best video wise, but I'm hurting so much. My ribs hurt so much, and it's really hard to keep talking. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching, guys. You can follow me on Instagram or my Patreon down below, which has got a couple of videos on there, and I'm working on some more material for it now. It's actually £1 a month. Or if you want to support this channel, please just leave a like and subscribe. That would make such a huge deal and such a big difference for me. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and until the next one, happy watching.